Hello. Oh no. Camera's giving me a time limit now. That's because I don't delete the videos that I make, which I probably should. Hello. It is... Well, now it's 2 in the morning. So it's actually Saturday the 23rd. 22nd. Fuck, I can't... Anyway. Hung out with some friends. They actually all had game night. And, I got off of work at around... Ooh. I got off of work at around, like, 11? No, not 11. Like, 10:30. And, they were all still hanging around. I was able to catch them as they were doing their last game. And I just... I was wondering... My friend and I, we went to Target a long time ago, and we bought, well, we didn't buy, he bought a board game involving, like, shadows and darkness, I wanted to play that, but, everyone else wanted to go home, so they all went home, but I was like, I don't have anywhere to go. I mean, that's not true either. I actually do have a morning shift in a few hours. But I wanted to play the game. And so I stayed, and then we played it, and I got the gist of it, but then afterwards, he and I started talking about, like, our connections and our friendships and relationships that we've had. I just, I updated him on what was going on with my life, and, he updated me what was going on with him, and it was, I think we both just kind of started talking about connections and relationships to one another, and I kind of let slip this idea I have that in terms of, like, relationships, like friendships itself, might not last very long, if I'm being honest. And that's not entirely a bad thing. It's more of a realization, if anything. And I told him how I was talking to a friend, one of the people in our friend group, about how I don't expect my group of friends to last me very long. I expect everyone to have moved on, and it makes me sad because I spent years with these people, but I can already see it happen. I feel like we've already had it happen very, very slowly. It's just we never really got a chance to actually take a look at it and see that, hey, not that the friend group is falling apart. I don't think we're going anywhere. It's just that our lives are pulling us in different directions right now, where sticking together is not part of the plan, and it makes me sad because I like this group of people, and I would really hate to be away from them for very long periods of time, but I feel like that's where it's gonna be, and it's not that I want them to stay. If life is pulling them in a direction that's away from us, then that's fine. I want them to flourish. I want them to seek life out as best as they can. But I can't help but think that it is a little bittersweet because it reminds me a lot of a friend that I used to have. Not that we're no longer friends. It's just that I haven't really spoken to this guy in a little while. A friend of ours that I met like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. He moved out of the state, and he's gonna be, I think he permanently lives outside of the state. He comes by to visit California every once in a while because he has family back here, but he lives in another state now, and he's like a whole ass grown up. And I feel like over the years we drifted apart very greatly, and that's not due to anything other than, life pulling us in a direction that drifted us apart, and that's not that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, he was over there doing his own thing, and I'm over here doing my own thing, and and I don't know, it makes me sad because sometimes I still think of him, and sometimes I wonder, like, I wonder if he still thinks about me or the other friends that we made together, but I'm really happy for him. I'm really glad that life has put him in a position where he's really happy with himself, and he's really happy with the choices that he's made, and I'm rooting for him from the sidelines. But sometimes I just can't help but wonder if that's going to be every single relationship I have, because you take a look at the people around you, and it's like, how many people around you were there like 5 years ago? You know what I mean? And some people have an easier time doing that. Some people stick with friends that they've known for like years and years and years, childhood friends, and they're still together, and I'm like, wow. My friend, like a close friend that I used to have, talks to me a lot about friends that they made made back in like high school, and how they're all still together. And mind you, high school for me was like half a decade ago almost, and I'm just like, Jesus, I'm that fucking old now, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then a bunch of my friends are already graduating from university, and it's like, and I know that it's not a race, and I understand that. I internalize the fact that I chose this path, and it's not gonna, it's not a race to see who can get their fucking piece of paper first. That's not what it's about. It's about going at your own pace, or like trying to figure out, what you want to do. But I can't help but compare myself to other people sometimes, and I'm just like, I can't help but think that some people just will drift apart from you, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, and some people are just better at it than others. And I've never been a person to be particularly good at it, if I'll be honest. I mentioned this to a friend of mine. I said to her that a lot of my close relationships don't really last longer than maybe 2 or 3 years, and I don't know what it was, but later on she confided in me that towards the end of our friendship that she was more obsessed with fulfilling that idea for me, the idea that I would have a friend past that sort of like expiration date, is what I kind of internalize it in my head, past that expiration date. And because she tried so hard to fulfill that for me, that she kind of kept a lot of things to herself, and she ended up having a lot of issues with me that she never wanted to speak up about, as a risk of like damaging that bond. And I feel like the more you keep things to yourself, the more that bond is damaged. And that's when I started thinking, I was like, people are so fucking weird. It's like, the more we go out of our way to not hurt other people, the more we inadvertently hurt them, A lot of times the truth is easier than the lie that we perceive. A lot of times it's a lot easier to hide the truth, but the lasting effects of it is that the consequence of that is, by keeping that truth from that other person, the farther you get away from when that truth happened, the harder it is to roll that back, if what I'm saying makes sense. So it's like the longer it takes for you to communicate with the other person, the harder it is to pull back from it. And then again, that's not always like 100% flat rate, like this will always happen. It's more of a case-by-case basis. It's more like, hey, sometimes things just turn out shitty, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean you can't work it out later. Or, just because things seem bad now doesn't mean that you shouldn't go out of your way to try to fix it. Sometimes it can be better if you just went up to that person the next day and said, hey, we need to talk about this, we need to hash it out. I don't want this floating in the air, because the longer it does, it's going to fester, it's going to get moldy, and it's going to ruin this relationship that we have. It all depends on what the context is. And I feel like a lot of times people make the wrong decisions 100% of the time. Like, I would say like 50% of the time, people make the wrong decision 100% of the time. And it causes thought would be going really well, and just because there's that one bit that we didn't talk about, could have been anything, could have been any number of things, but because it's that one thing that we just didn't talk about, that's what caused the rift. It's the straw, and I feel like if we were a bit more honest with each other, that we wouldn't have to deal with that at the very end. But that's just me. I don't know. I'm rambling right now. It's like 3 in the morning, and I'm trying to fill time because it's a long drive home. But I don't know. It's moments like these when I get really lost in my thought, and especially just having a conversation like that. I don't know. It makes me think. You know. I talk to my friends a lot about like how fleeting our relationships are, and a lot of times my friends kind of look back at me, or the people that I talk about look back to me and go, you know, stop worrying about the end of it and start thinking about what's going on in front of you. But I feel like the more I do that, the less I have time to plan for what's ahead, because I can see what's inevitable. I feel like if I don't prepare myself for what's going to happen, then once it does hit, I wouldn't know where to go. Unlike other people who have already prepared themselves through past experiences where they weren't prepared themselves. You know, it's kind of like building up an immunity to what's going on. I don't have that yet, just because, again, most of my close relationships don't last for very long. You know, friendships, actual intimate relationships don't really last too long. That's just me. I have about 20 minutes left on this drive. I think I'm gonna play some calming music and just sit here in silence.